So in this part of our complete Express.js blogging application, we're going to create the templates that will be used to render the views for all of the routes that we configured in the previous lesson. So if you remember, we created routes for login and registration pages, as well as for a protected area which was called Create Post, which will be the form that a user fills in to create a new blog post, and two other endpoints for displaying a list of posts and a single post. So all of those routes require views and templates, and we'll create these now, and then we'll be in a position where we can actually load the Express.js blogging app and then test it out in our browser. So let's first of all create the login and registration views. And if you look at the get endpoint for login, you can see we're going to render a template just called login, and the same thing for register as well. The template name just needs to be register. So let's create those two view files now. And I'm going to keep it very simple for the registration page, just two input boxes, username and password, and a register button that will trigger the form to submit that data via a post method to the relevant route that we've got set up to handle our registration process. I'm actually just going to copy and paste this into the login view as well, and modify it slightly to look like a login page. So again, nice and simple, and we'll look at styling this in the next lesson when we look at styling the entire app. So let's move on to the posts views. So we've got three views that we need to create. First of all, there's the create post view. There's also the view to render all of the posts that are available in the blog. And then finally, a view that will just render a particular blog, and that view is just called post. So let's create those view files now. So within our singular post view, we're going to get access to a variable called post that will hold all of the information that's been retrieved from the database, such as the title, username, date, and content of the blog post. So let's just render that data inside a simple bit of markup. So here we're just rendering the post data with a heading level 2 tag for the title and wrapping the content and the meta information inside a couple of tags. So that's all we'll need for the moment for our single post view, and because our posts view that has multiple posts to deal with is going to format things in exactly the same way, we can copy and paste this code into the posts.ejs file and simply wrap this in a for loop to repeat itself depending on how many posts are in the array. So by doing this, we should get the same type of markup and same display for all of the posts, whether it's a single post or in this multiple posting listing. And because all the markup has the same classes, we can simply use some CSS in the next lesson to style it no matter whether we're on a listing page or a single post page. So let's finish off our views with the create post template. So because the username and the date is going to be populated for us in the database, all we really need when we're creating a new post is to get the title and content, and when the button is pressed, the form will submit all of this data and trigger the create post route. So again, very simple, and we'll tidy this up with some styling in the next lesson. And just before we give our blog application a test run, let's just head over to the app.js file, where we need to tell Express to use the new posts routes that we created in the previous lesson. And you can see that the users routes that we created in the previous lesson as well have been prefixed with /users. So those routes will respond to /users, /login, /register, etc. And you can either remove that or leave it as it is. For this tutorial I'm going to remove it because everything else is in the same namespace. And so now if we run our project and check it out in the browser, so with our app up and running, let's go ahead and create a new user on the register endpoint. And submitting the form actually does register the user, and we can check that in Compass. But it'd be nice if we actually gave the user some kind of message, so we'll go back and add a flash message to a successful completion. But let's test out the rest of the app whilst we're here. So even though we're registered, we won't be logged in at the moment, so if we try and access the protected create post route, you'll see we get redirected to the login page. So let's log in with that new user. And as you can see, once we're logged in, we're immediately redirected to the create post route, which will allow us to create a new blog post in the database. So in a similar way for the registration page, you can see the post does actually get created inside of MongoDB, including the username and the date pre-populated for us. But the actual create post form is not showing a success, and it's actually waiting for a response from Express because we didn't return a response. So we'll go back and fix that in just 1 second, but let's try out the viewing of posts. So we can see just the one post in the database. Let's create another one just so that we've got a couple to compare. And you can see the 2 posts being displayed in a list. Of course, we created that other endpoint as well to display just one post. So if I go to Compass and get the object ID of one of those documents and put that into the path as a path parameter, you can see only the one post that we selected via the ID is displayed. So let's just go back to the code and fix those couple of issues. And we just need to include in our templates that we created earlier on the flash messages for each of those routes. But I'm actually going to create this in a separate file so we can reuse it for all of the other routes, such as login, registration, and creating new post. So in our flash.ejs template, it's probably worth checking for the existence of either errors or success. Otherwise, we might get errors when we're trying to access a variable that hasn't been provided to the view. And let's also fix the problem with the redirect after the user's created a new post. And the problem I can see here is that I used the request object to do the redirect, whereas this should have been the response object. So let's change that to just res.redirect. And let's try this out in the browser now. If we try to register a new user, for example, you can see we're now getting the flash message appeared that the user was registered. So let's log in. And try creating a new post. So again, you can see we're getting the flash message. And we're also testing that we can post from multiple users. So we've got an almost functioning blog here. There's probably a few usability issues that we can sort out in terms of directing people to the right pages. And of course, it doesn't look much at the moment. So we'll look at that in the next lesson when we add some style to our Express.js blog.